Why is polyamory suddenly everywhere? And why is the media constantly trying to convince us that polyamory and non monogamy is the cool, progressive, modern way to approach relationships today? Today, we're going to talk about the rise of polyamory and whatever terms come under the umbrella of non monogamy. Everywhere we turn, social media, media publications, TV shows, movies, it seems like everywhere we look, everyone's talking about polyamory. It is like constantly shoved in our faces these days. And I've noticed over the last couple of years, probably over the last 5 years, especially in the last 3 years, they have been ramping up the exposure of polyamory. It seems to be plastered everywhere you look. We're constantly shown images of and photos and videos of people who are doing some form of polyamory, and they're getting online to talk about their experiences and talk about how awesome it is and educate on how amazing polyamory is. You're even seeing things like thruples. I talked about thruples one day in my Instagram story, and there were a lot of people who didn't know what it was. So for those of you who don't know what a thruple is, it's 3 people who are in a couple. And it could be a combination of men and women, however, they want to make that combination. But there are a lot of different terms now. Non-monogamy is sort of like I said, the umbrella term, and a lot of things fit underneath that. But there just seems to be a lot going on online right now. And I'm sure you guys have seen it too. There are so many videos from TikTok that are being shared on Twitter and Instagram everywhere where these people are coming forward. And at first it looks like parody or some kind of satire. They're like, this is what it's like to be in a polyamorous marriage or a non-monogamous marriage. But it's not satire. It's very real. There are a lot of people online who are like seriously sharing parts of their life of non-monogamy. I actually worked with a woman years ago. This is probably, almost 10 years ago now, when I was still working for women's media publications. I was a writer and an editor, and she was my very first editor when I was kind of first on the scene. And I don't say this in a way to bash her, because I have very positive memories of her. She's just a very nice person, and she was always really good to me and a great colleague to work with. But she recently came out with a memoir about non-monogamy, because I remember when I was first working with her, her boyfriend at the time, they had decided to be non-monogamous. And so she ended up writing a memoir about her experiences with non-monogamy. And it's just, it's becoming a bigger conversation. So I want to show you a couple of examples of polyamory that we see online, because this will kind of give us an idea of what's being shoved in our faces lately. And with a lot of these videos, I'm not going to play the sound, because I don't want to get a copyright strike, because they usually use music. So I'm just going to show you. And for those of you who are listening to the audio, you can just listen along. I will narrate what we're seeing on the screen. This is a woman introducing her husband behind her and her girlfriend on the other side of her. They're not the same person. And we are polyamorous, not a throuple. We both love Abby very much. Preston and Casey are not dating each other. They're just best friends. And then they both kiss Abby on the cheeks. We are so happy. And then they pick up their cute little dog. So I don't mean to be mean. And this is a question that a lot of people have posed on Twitter recently. Why is it always that the people who are sharing all the polyamorous stuff, like, why are they never good looking? Like, you never see handsome guys and beautiful women talking about non-monogamy and polyamory online. Like, it's just never like that. It's not, I don't think that's a coincidence. Let's take a look at another one. This one is particularly interesting because this woman is pregnant, and she posts a lot of polyamory, non-monogamous stuff. I'm probably not getting the correct terms here. I'm probably not using the right terms that they would want me to use, but you get the drift. You get what I'm saying. So here is a video of a woman who is, she's doing a little dance. So let's just read the text on the screen here. Even though seeing your partner date others can trigger intense feelings, then she turns around. She's pregnant. She's like 7-8 months pregnant. Like anger, anxiety, and fear of abandonment, what a lot of people don't realize is that through processing these feelings, you actually can build an even stronger sense of safety and connection within yourself and with your partner. So you can have a stronger connection, apparently, than if you'd never felt unsafe to begin with. And then she puts a little heart emoji and she's dancing. She's pregnant with her boyfriend's child, and her boyfriend's out sleeping with another woman because non-monogamy, how modern, how progressive. And notice how these videos, like, they always make it seem like non-monogamy is going to improve your life. It's not even the conversation of like, we get to do whatever we want to do, like, don't judge us. They're trying to tell you that it's better for your relationship if you're non-monogamous. It teaches you better communication skills. It helps you feel more safe with your partner. It actually improves your level of commitment, right? That's the language here that we're seeing a lot of times with these people who are promoting non-monogamy. So this, I'm going to show you another video, and this one I'm going to play the audio because it's just a woman talking about her experience in a non-monogamous marriage. This woman's really popular on TikTok. She's called Openly Committed. That's her handle. And I find this one really interesting because not interesting isn't the right word, but I'm trying to be nice here. They have children. They've got 2 kids, and her entire profile is built on non-monogamy. And she even does like some speaking engagements. So they're like publicly non-monogamous, and they have kids. So I'm going to show you this video, and let's take a look here because it's kind of nuts.
Was my husband dating other people when I was pregnant? My husband and I have been non-monogamous for 13 years at this point. During our first pregnancy, neither of us was dating because we were just so overwhelmed and excited to be parents. During our second pregnancy, my husband did date. Because we've been non-monogamous for so long, we're really good at discussing our boundaries as our needs change. I was able to say to him during that time, I would be more comfortable if you were dating people that didn't live in our city. He didn't have a serious girlfriend at the time, so he was like, yeah, that's no problem. I had just taken a leadership role in a new company, and I wanted that separation. No one at work knew that I was open, and so I didn't want anyone seeing him with anyone else. It was a big city, but it wasn't that big. I didn't really want to date anyone at the time, partially because of my job and partially because of kind of a growing belly, but I was fine with him dating. If anything, it kind of removed some pressure for me because I was overwhelmed at work. And here's the thing, I'm really good at communicating and setting boundaries with my husband because he and I have been doing it together for such a long period of time. I wasn't good at setting boundaries at work. When it came to my job, I was working really long hours. I was traveling all the time for business.
We get the picture. So she was very happy for her husband to date while she was pregnant. I didn't really feel like dating, but I was totally fine with my husband dating. Yeah, okay, honey, we believe you. Yeah, we believe you, sweetheart. And then I just want to show one more because this video is where she's talking about what they tell the kids. What do they tell the kids? So let's take a look at this one.
What do we tell the kids when either my husband or I are on a date with someone else? And I'm currently on a date in Hawaii. Well, yes, my husband is home with our 2 kids. My husband and I have been in a non-monogamous relationship for 13 years. And I'm only away for 3 nights. But what we told the kids is that I'm traveling to Hawaii. And my daughter didn't really blink an eye, except to say that she didn't want me to go, that she wanted to come with me. And then I would have to bring her home at least once a week. My mother, on the other hand, gave me the evil eye when she heard this on FaceTime because I think she probably knew I was off with somebody else besides my husband. And when my daughter told me that she was sad and my mom was kind of making faces at me, I did feel a little bit guilty. But I reminded myself that if I was going to Hawaii for 3 days on an independent girls trip, or like a surfing trip or a yoga retreat, I wouldn't feel guilty in the slightest. Traveling like this gives me energy and joy. It is an escape of everyday life. And I have so much gratitude and appreciation for the fact that I get to do this, that I get to go hiking to a gorgeous waterfall. But as far as my kids are concerned, I'm going on a trip for me. And that is something that I want them to grow up knowing is okay. And I know for many women, the surf trip or the yoga retreat, that is an amazing opportunity to kind of reset and to have a moment for yourself. So no matter what that moment is, especially if you're a mom, I hope you get to do it.
Oh, I can't do it. I can't do it. She's comparing going to Hawaii and having sex with someone who's not her husband to a surfing trip or a yoga retreat. This is like, what kind of upside down world do we live in? Where we're comparing a yoga retreat to cheating on your husband. Oh, but it's not cheating because we've set boundaries and we're open. Okay, you can put any word on it that you want. You're having sex with a man who's not your husband and you're comparing it to a yoga retreat. Ugh, do you see what I'm saying now? Okay, so you see how there's all this content online. I'm showing you just not even the tip of the iceberg. There's so much more that could be even just considered the tip of the iceberg. This is all over the internet. There are hundreds of thousands of people who are following these types of creators, and the comments are overwhelmingly positive. The comments are like, this is amazing. You guys have such amazing communication skills. This is such a mature way to approach a relationship. Your husband must be so confident in you and so secure in himself. It's all positive stuff. And now this isn't a video, but I just want to show you one more example. This is from Women's Health Magazine. Okay, an article from Women's Health Magazine about thruples. But first, a word from our sponsor, my women's group, The Shift. Come join the best women's health experience online today. My women's health group called The Shift is a wonderful online community of hundreds of women who are dedicated to improving their health and their wellness. In my group, you get access to so many different things that are going to help you improve your health, whether you want to lose weight, balance your hormones, improve your fertility, whatever it might be. Every month we do a different health challenge in my group. Sometimes we do fitness challenges. Sometimes we do meal prep challenges. Sometimes we do challenges for balancing your hormones. And there's always something new to work on. So we're constantly moving forward together. I also offer recipes and weekly workouts in the group. And there's so many webinars and interviews and exclusive podcast episodes with guests where we can talk about an array of topics that aren't really allowed to be talked about online, like on YouTube. I've got interviews with holistic OBGYNs, holistic practitioners, frequency medicine doctors, nutritionists, doulas, everything that you might be looking for. And of course, we talk about health from a holistic perspective. We talk about marriage, motherhood, and we're able to share a lot more information in there that we might not necessarily be able to share online on YouTube. So go to the link in the description in the show notes and join The Shift, my women's health group. It's at a really affordable price. We've got so much going on there, and I have additional programs and weight loss programs in there if you're looking for something additional. So join us. We've got hundreds of supportive women who are on the same path to improve their health and their lifestyle, and we'll see you inside The Shift. Okay, so let's take a look at this women's health magazine. First of all, this is women's health. What do thruples have to do with women's health? I don't know. Whatever. The headline is 2024 the year of the thruple? Historians and relationship experts explain why trios are everywhere. From Bridgerton to Challengers, thruples are entering the zeitgeist in a big way. So before we get into it, Bridgerton, I don't know if you guys saw season 3 of Bridgerton. I thought it was quite underwhelming. My favorite season so far is season 2. I don't know. I just thought that was season 1 was just a little bit too much sex. It was just too smutty for me. But season 3 was a little bit underwhelming. But anyway, in season 3, the storyline that they're referring to is Benedict, the second oldest sibling, and he's the second brother. He is in a relationship with this woman, and then one day she brings her friend to dinner with them, and it's a guy, and then the guy like hits on him, and then they invite him to and have a threesome with him, and then they start this thruple relationship. And that was like a big storyline of season 3. And then Challengers is that movie with Zendaya, and I forgot the other actors' names, but one guy played Prince Charles in The Crown, and the other guy played, I forgot which character, in the West Side Story movie that recently came out a couple years ago. And I'm especially frustrated about Challengers because it's about a tennis throuple, like they're professional tennis players. And I am the world's biggest tennis fan. This is something that a lot of my followers don't know about me. I don't talk about it that much, but I'm a tennis freak. Like of course I watch every Grand Slam tournament, but I watch as much tennis as I possibly can. Novak Djokovic has been my favorite player since I was like 18 or 19. And people think that, oh, you just jumped on the bandwagon because he's anti-vax. No, he's been my favorite player since before he was even like established in the big 3. So it's just the sweet cherry on top that he's, anti-vax, but he's not anti-vax. He's just pro personal autonomy, whatever. Anyway, all that to say, Challengers is a movie about 3 professional tennis players that are involved in a throuple. I haven't seen it. I refuse to see it. It looks so stupid. But anyway, so in this article, they're talking about Benedict, Bridgerton, Tilly, and Paul sharing a night of drinking and dinner and a sexually charged smoking session. And then there's a picture of them in bed together. So this article is all about thruples, and you have these historians and relationship experts. There's a picture of them kissing. Relationship experts who are talking about how amazing this new triad / thruple is. It's a balanced, consensual, and committed relationship between 3 people. Thruples can be closed, meaning members of the trio only date one another, or open, meaning members of the trio could date or have sex with other people. And then there's this sex therapist who says, it's actually one of the most perplexing dynamics in non-monogamy to navigate. A 3-person relationship brings up challenges that other relationship designs just simply don't. It's worth it if that's what feels good, but it's certainly not easy. Okay, so that's an entire article about thruples. All that to say, do you get it now? All these women's magazines, women's health magazines are talking about thruples and trios and non-monogamy like it's an awesome thing. There is a very concerted effort to attempt to normalize polyamory and non-monogamy and make it sound very cool and modern and progressive. This isn't a coincidence. When you see all of the publications that are pumping out content like this at the same time, it means that there is a very intentional campaign happening. Okay. So for example, there is a New York Times article that came out recently about a polycule. You can just look at the headline here. Polycule. Lessons from a 20-person polycule. What the hell is that? Polycule. It's a 20 people living together and just having sex and being in, quote, relationships. This is disgusting. How they set boundaries, navigate jealousy, wingman their spouses, and foster community. And the girl says, the polycule is like this weird family. It's chosen family. It works like complex kinship networks work, just a little kinkier. It reflects radical queer values. When publications exhibit a coordinated effort to push a message like this, like they did with body positivity, abortion, all of these other radical ideas that have now been totally normalized, it's clear that it comes from the top. Okay, this is an organized effort. This is not a coincidence. Let me tell you from personal experience. You've heard on my show before that I've talked about my experience as a writer and editor in women's digital magazines. A lot of these publications, like Women's Health was a major competitor of ours. Like I worked for multiple companies that were even bigger than Women's Health. Like our traffic was much bigger than Women's Health was. And I know the editorial directors, like they decide on what kind of content they want to be pushed out. And they tell the editors, this is what we're pushing. This is what we're talking about. So this is what is being intentionally pushed. They want everyone to read about and to think about polyamory and non-monogamy. They want it to be normalized. They want people to think it's awesome. Because none of these articles paint polyamory or non-monogamy in a negative light. It's all positive. It's all empowering, and it's all about setting your boundaries and exploring consent and how liberating it can be. So you're not shackled down by the archaic model of monogamy and marriage, two-person marriage. So that brings us to a very important question. Why is the concept of non-monogamy being pushed everywhere today? Why? Because it's, for normal people, it's gross. Well, for one, it's about the decline and breakdown of family. They want to see the family unit broken down. They've wanted to see it for years because, of course, when you have the breakdown of the family unit, you have fewer marriages, you have more divorces, fewer children are born, more single-parent households. All of that means that people are easier to control and easier to manipulate. They want as easy of a population to control as possible. And that's what you get, because when you break down the family, you make both adults and children more susceptible to being led by someone else, particularly the mainstream machines like the media and, of course, the government and the educational system. So that's why they're promoting these ratchet things like polyamory. Same thing with promoting things like abortion and making divorce sound fabulous. I mean, how many celebrities have come forward to make divorce not only sound like it's normal and it's a beautiful thing, like the conscious uncoupling thing of Chris Martin and Gwyneth Paltrow. And then there was, even people like Chelsea Handler making marriage sound horrible. And of course, Mia Khalifa making it sound fabulous that she's been divorced. And even Emily Ratajkowski, that the super hot supermodel, she talks about how women who get divorced in their 20s are just like, they're better, they're just like more mature, and they're like so awesome. It's part of the same agenda. That's why they want non-monogamy to be promoted, because it completely breaks down the family unit. And the family unit is the first line of defense against tyranny and against brainwashing. And that's why children who grow up in a strong two-parent household where their biological mother and father are in a committed monogamous relationship and are very involved in the raising of the children, those children tend to grow up and they have much better outcomes. Their emotional health is way better. They're more successful. They're more financially stable. They themselves are much more likely to go on and have stable marriages and families. And that's good for society. And they're much less likely to be infiltrated with these ridiculous ideas of radical feminism and radical leftism. But when you have non-monogamy and people are just sleeping around and they're creating all these new boundaries and it's all about navigating new types of consent. Yeah, they make it sound fabulous and whatever, but it's ridiculous, and it's another way to break down the family unit. And I will not accept this argument that, this is just a different type of family. What's wrong with establishing different types of family? No, we live in a world where there is objective morality. There is objective good and there is objective bad. And it is not good for children to grow up with their parents or with a single parent who is engaging in sexual activity with multiple people. That is a blanketly unhealthy thing for children to see. And I'm not going to entertain the idea that it could actually be quite good for them to learn different types of communication. Nope. I'm not going to buy into that. It's ridiculous. Another reason that they want to promote non-monogamy and polyamory and whatever is because it's yet another unhealthy thing they promote as something progressive and modern and awesome, just like body positivity and abortion, because they paint it as something freeing and liberating. They want to make these terrible things sound like they're good for you. Because when you think about these other topics, right? Body positivity, for example, they make it sound like not only is obesity okay and acceptable, but it's now virtuous and beautiful and it's now healthy. I reference this all the time. The Cosmopolitan cover that went viral, it's infamous now because it has the headline, "This is healthy!" And it's got morbidly obese models on the cover. And then there was another magazine, Self magazine, that had the feature called The Future of Fitness. And there was a whole segment on fatness and how the future of fitness is fat and how there's nothing wrong with being obese. And it actually makes you a more resilient person because you have to deal with so many people making fun of you, whatever. They're trying to make obesity, which is objectively bad for you, it's unhealthy. They're trying to make it sound awesome. Like it's something that women should embrace and celebrate and cherish their obesity. Same thing with abortion, the ending of innocent life in the womb, the most devastating choice that a mother can make in terms of her relationship with her children. And they're making it sound like it's liberation. Same thing with non-monogamy. They want to turn the world upside down. They want to make monogamy sound like it's archaic and so dated and so oppressive to women. What an oppressive system. Just be non-monogamous. Write your own story, girl. You're in charge of what you want. You get to choose how you live your life. You get to choose who you love. Love is love is love is love is love. You know what this is all it's doing? It's all ways to create chaos. Remember, they want to destroy two things, beauty and order. The two pillars of any healthy, thriving society, which are also two very important pillars of Christianity, traditional Orthodox Christianity. They very much revere beauty and very much revere order. And I'm not talking about the shallow, superficial type of beauty that's like, I don't know, name some beautiful movie star. No, I'm not talking about like a Bella Hadid. I'm not talking about fixing your face and being a size 00 as the type of beauty. True beauty is inseparable from what is good. Real beauty is inseparable from what is true. Beauty is a wonderful thing to cherish and to promote in any sane, thriving culture. Same thing with order. We need order. That's why the genders matter. Men cannot be women, women cannot be men, because that promotes chaos. And polyamory is just another way to create disgusting chaos in our society. The more chaos there is, the easier people are to control, the more miserable they are, the more immoral they are, the more susceptible they are to brainwashing and indoctrination of these leftist Marxist ideologies. So polyamory, again, it's chaotic. It completely throws order and beauty out the window because monogamous marriage, it establishes order in the home and it establishes order in society. Family is the bedrock of any thriving society. And family is what happens when a man and a woman are married and hopefully have children as well. And same thing with beauty. Marriage is a beautiful thing because it's true and it's good. But you throw that out the window for something a lot uglier because it seems shinier. It seems great because you get to answer every flesh desire and just sleep with and date whoever you want. So why do they so badly want to see people polyamorous and non-monogamous? Because it creates chaos. And that is the root of what they're trying to do. That's the foundation of what they're trying to do. They're trying to disrupt anything that is beautiful and anything that has order in our society. And that's not a good thing. So when you see all of this stuff happening on social media, TV shows, movies, I mean, I've had to turn off a couple of TV shows recently because it's just nasty. No one wants to see polyamorous, throuple, non-monogamous stuff. And they're just ramping it up now. It's going to get worse and worse. It's going to get worse. I guarantee you, it's only a matter of time until we see these narratives show up in children's shows. And I hate to say this, but this is part of the mere exposure effect. And we have arrived here because we started with the sexual revolution, because we started with normalizing, quote, gay marriage. That's an oxymoron. There's no such thing as gay marriage, but they think because they legalized the ability for two men to get married that they're going to suddenly redefine what marriage is. But it all started with the idea that sex can and should be enjoyed outside of marriage, right? And then women were sexually liberated. And then that moved slowly into the gay agenda being accepted and normalized everywhere. Oh, we're going to put gay people on TV and let it be a totally normal romantic storyline. And all of these things, all of these milestones, all of these goalposts have been knocked down. They've been achieved by media, by academia, and it's been totally normalized. And so now we've arrived at polyamory, and it's just going to keep getting more and more and more depraved. But we're going to be more and more numb to it because these things have been normalized for a long time. Remember, the mere exposure effect is the more that you are exposed to something in small increments, the more normal and acceptable it becomes to you. And so they start small. They start by injecting it in little storylines in TV or movies, or you start by seeing one article about thruples, one movie about thruples, and then it becomes more and more normal. Soon, it's going to be in kids' shows. That's why we see gay parents and kids' shows now. Like Bluey just had, I think, a lesbian couple or something. I heard it. I didn't see it, but I heard that was a storyline. We've seen gay storylines in Disney movies before. Just mark my words. You can timestamp this and check back in 5 years, and I guarantee you there's going to be some kind of polyamorous storyline in kids' TV shows. There's going to be like parents that are in a throuple, and they've got their little cartoon kids, and they're like, yay, let's go to the park. And it's like a mommy, and a daddy. And that is extremely depressing. Okay, let's move on to another segment. I want to talk today about why it's so important to protect children's identity and children's faces online. There was a very nice listener of the podcast who messaged me on Instagram, and she said, hey, you mentioned before that you were going to do a segment on explaining why it's so important to protect kids' identities online. She was like, did you do that yet? And I said, no, thank you for reminding me because I forgot to do this. So let's talk about that today. But first, a word from our sponsor, 1st Phorm Prenatal Multivitamins. Ladies, did you know that if you have a menstrual cycle, you should be taking a prenatal multivitamin every day? Not only if you are trying to get pregnant or if you're pregnant or nursing. The prenatal multivitamin is great for women in their childbearing years, regardless of your pregnancy plan. So if you have a menstrual cycle, you should be taking a prenatal multivitamin every day. There are so many nutrients in here that are important for healthy hormones, a healthy menstrual cycle, a period that's much more manageable. It'll help reduce your menstrual cramps and PMS symptoms. And there's so many things in here that your body needs if you still have a menstrual cycle. And it's especially important to find a prenatal that has folate instead of folic acid. And it's actually kind of hard to find. There's so many prenatals out there that use folic acid, which is the synthetic form of folate that's not bioavailable to the body. So I highly recommend the 1st Phorm Prenatal Multivitamin. I've been taking this for 5 years, long before my first pregnancy. And it's a fantastic product. It gives you so much energy in the morning. It really helps to regulate your mood and your menstrual cycle. So I highly recommend it. Please use my affiliate link in the description in the show notes. Just click on that, make your first purchase. This company is also fantastic. They're very pro-America and patriotic, so it's a win-win. You know you're supporting a company that has the same values as you, and they have excellent customer service. So if you need to make a return, it's 100% money, 110% money back guarantee. And let me know if you guys have any questions about the products. So why should we protect children's faces online? I made a decision before I even got pregnant with my first, and I'd solidified this decision when I was pregnant with my first, that I was not going to show my children's faces online. It's a personal decision that I made. My husband and I were totally on the same page. My husband's not on social media, so he's not someone who was really stoked about the idea of showing our private lives online anyway. And even though I'm an online person, I have an online business. I have my health and coaching business, and I have an Instagram page and a YouTube, obviously, TikTok, a Twitter, whatever. I'm actually pretty private about my private life. I don't talk much about my personal life and my kids. And I decided a long time ago that I was not going to show my children's face. I have shown, I think, one photo of my kids when they were newborns, and it's like just the side profile of their face. And then that was it. I especially didn't want to show any pictures of them as they got older and developed a very distinctive face and recognizable face. I don't even share my kids' names online. I've never said my kids' names. And I don't share my kids' birthdays. Like I don't do a post on my kid's birthday, be like, today's my kid's birthday, they're so-and-so. Like I don't even share when my kids are born. I make this sort of announcement. I'm like, my child was recently born, but I don't say the birthday. I just don't like to share personal information. And I have gotten a lot of heat for that. I don't know why. People seem to be offended by that. But I'll tell you why I made the decision. And I would actually very strongly encourage a lot of parents out there to be careful about sharing your kids' faces online. So a long time ago, I started realizing that anytime a mom or a parent will share multiple photos and videos of their kids, there are always a lot of people, a lot of like strange men that comment. And later, a lot of these parents came forward to say that their photos and videos of their kids were being saved. Because when you're a content creator, of course, you can go to the insights and you can see how many people liked your photo, commented, shared, and how many people saved your posts. And that metric is very helpful for people who have online businesses. They're like, oh, a lot of people saved this post, so they want to see more like this. But as a parent, you can see that like 500 people saved a photo of your child at the pool. That's concerning. Why the heck are you saving that kind of photo? And then there was some research that came out of Australia a number of years ago, probably about 4 or 5 years ago at this point, showing that over 60% of the photos that were confiscated from child porn websites came from public social media accounts. And what these perverts will do is they will take the face of a child that is posted on social media, a very seemingly innocent photo that a parent shares. They will take the photo of that child's face and they will edit it and plaster it on top of a photo or a video of a naked child's body. I'm not going to go into any more detail about these kinds of things that I have read and heard because it's enough for me. But all that to say is there are some very depraved things happening online. The United States is the number one consumer of child porn websites. The United States is the number one consumer of these videos. Child grape videos. Okay, I'm not saying the words. You get what I'm saying. The U.S., Americans, the number one consumers. These predators are more and more prevalent every year. They're gaining in numbers. And not only that, but they're becoming more and more depraved in the choices they make and in the content they consume. And if you are putting your child online, they are susceptible to being electronically exploited by these predators. And I will never play a part in my children even running the risk of falling into these people's hands. Never. I mean, I'm telling you, you guys, if you even post your child's face, there is a risk of people taking that photo and putting it somewhere that you don't want it to be put. And I've had people, I'm telling you, it's so weird to me that people get really offended by this. I've had moms who like fight with me about it. And they're like, so what are you going to do? You're not going to let your child go to the playground because there might be a predator there. What's wrong with you? You're so sick in the head. You're not going to let your child do anything. Yeah, no, I'm just going to protect my kids in the ways that I can. That's it. And there's no benefit to showing my kids online. There really isn't. The only benefit there is, and this actually is quite a big benefit, but it's not worth it to me. The easiest way to gain followers and the easiest way to grow your platform and get millions of followers is to be radically authentic and to be extremely open about your private life. I have been on Instagram with a number of followers for quite a while now, probably, 6 years. I've had enough followers to be considered an influencer, even though I hate that word. And let me tell you from personal experience and from any other content creator I know, The videos and the posts that get the most engagement, the most likes, and the most traffic are the ones where we talk about our personal life. I talked about my miscarriage. I miscarried twins in 2023. That post, anytime I talk about that, so much traffic. Anytime I talk about my kids, so much traffic. If I talk about like birth or pregnancy or whatever, that's how you get a lot of followers online. That's why the mommy influencers, it's such a big market, because people love reality TV. They love YouTube channels where families are constantly talking about their families and their trips and their births and their pregnancies and the kids' milestones and how the funny things and the sad things that happen to the kids. People eat that stuff up. And that's fine that they eat it up. But what it does is it opens a very big door to people preying on your family and people knowing personal information. And I personally believe very strongly that children deserve the right to grow up in private. They cannot fully consent to the idea of their life being broadcasted to the world when they're 6 years old. They cannot fully consent to the idea that their homeschooling curriculum and their vacations and their tantrums are being broadcasted on public social media when they're 3, 7, 10, even 12. They don't fully comprehend the weight of that decision that the parents are making for them. And I know it's low-hanging fruit, guys. Trust me, it is so easy to put your kids online and to get thousands of followers just like that, if not hundreds of thousands of followers. I could do it. Anybody could do it. It's not like I'm special. Anybody could do it. So that's really the only benefit of putting your kids online. And that's not enough of a trade-off for me. I don't want to put my kids at risk. Taking my kids to the playground? Yeah, I'm going to take my kids to the playground. First of all, because I can protect them in a way that I can't protect them from their videos and photos being snatched up by some predator. And that's why I urge parents to think twice about what kind of content they're posting. I don't see anything wrong. Like, I can understand people want to post like a family photo once a year or whatever. They want to post a photo of their family like on Christmas or in the summer on vacation to just, say some words about how wonderful family is and how much they love being a parent. Okay, fine. But that's very different than exploiting your children for content. And it really makes me sick to my stomach when I see all the content families where they just make content about everything in the child's life. Everything from what they eat during the day to their nap time and bedtime routine to what they wear to school and what their extracurricular activities are. There have been some family influencers, I'm not going to name names, but one of the big families that it's like a foster adopt family with like 10 kids. The mom has joked before about how they've had stalkers show up to their home because she does so much content on their 10 kids. And it's like very easy to find out where they live because they're pretty open about what city they live in and what school the kids go to and whatever. And she like jokes about it like it's funny. Like, what is wrong with you? I'm telling you, social media has broken some women's brains where they think it's funny and cute and like adorable for their kids to have fans. I think it's incredibly unhealthy. And I think that we're going to see a very big difference because there's so many influencers now and a lot of content creators, especially ones who do the family type of content with their kids. I think we're going to see a very big difference between children who grew up in privacy and children who grew up in the spotlight. Because arguably these kids who grow up in content families and have like their mom has 2 million subs on YouTube and 500,000 followers on TikTok and their whole life is being put online, they have more viewers than like a Disney kid from the early 2000s did. Because think about the number of views you get online these days. It's more views than a Disney show got, like a B-list Disney show got in 2003. So I think we're going to see a very big difference between these kids who grow up in stable private homes versus kids who grow up for their whole world to be exploited online. So I know a couple of other people in the conservative media space who also protect their kids' identities online. And we often talk about how important it is to us because our kids are our everything. And I know that the right often talks about the importance of family and children and motherhood, and that's good. But you can talk about all of that stuff without making your kids a public spectacle. It is possible. A lot of people do it. Lauren Chen does it. Candace Owens does it. Allie Beth Stuckey does it. Lila Rose does it. These are smart, successful women online who talk very much about motherhood and family, and they keep their children's lives private. And I think it's very smart of them to do that. And it makes me a little bit sick to my stomach when I see parents share certain things of their kids and they just don't realize how dangerous it is online. And even further than people exploiting your kids' photos and videos, there's also a very big risk of these predators finding your children, not only physically, but finding them online. Like a child's device can easily be hacked. I mean, my kids, of course, they're so young, but they're still not going to have their own devices for a long time, a very long time. But if your kids use any type of device, I don't know if you guys know or follow Sean Ryan. He's got a great YouTube page. He's got great podcast episodes and good interviews. And he interviewed an ethical hacker last year that explained exactly how these children's devices are hacked by predators. And the predators will hack the device and act like the child's favorite character and chat with them, chat back and forth. And then they'll act like they're another kid or the character or whatever. And the more that you expose about your kids online, the more information these predators have to somehow find a way to infiltrate their life and infiltrate their mind. And I'm not going to take part in that. I don't want to take part in that. So that's why I don't show my kids' faces online. And I would strongly encourage parents to really think about it, especially if you're Christian parents, to pray about it and talk to your husband or your wife about it. I mean, how do you want to raise your kids and in what kind of environment? How much of your child's life are you comfortable with strangers viewing and discussing? I mean, I actually think Ballerina Farm is a pretty good example. Like her kids' faces are online, but she doesn't make her content about her kids' lives. She makes content about cooking and homesteading and milking the cows, farming, sourdough, whatever. And her kids are in the background. I don't see that as problematic as these families that make their entire content out of their kids' lives. That's very different. So yeah, you never know what kind of predator is looking at your kids. And if you have a public social media profile and if you have pictures or videos of your kids, I would encourage you to look at how many saves there are. Go to your insights and look at how many people saved the posts of your kids. You might be horrified. Just saying. Okay, we're going to talk about one more thing today and then we'll call it a day. So there was this tweet recently from an account that I really, really like. Her name is Melanie, and she posts a lot about women's health and holistic health, hormones, motherhood, all that stuff. But first, a word from our sponsor. Ladies, how would you like to lose 10 pounds or more in 10 weeks? Come join my group coaching program called Fit and Lean, where I help hundreds of women finally get the results they're looking for, even if they've been frustrated with their weight loss process so far. I help you with nutrition, workouts, lifestyle habits. You get a sample meal plan, a recipe book, a workout plan, and of course, a weekly group coaching call with me and constant communication with me online. I help you figure out what to eat, what kind of workouts to do. And if you have been frustrated with the process so far and you're confused about what to do, what to eat, and how to make it all happen, this group is the place for you. This challenge has produced so many amazing results for women for all ages, 20s, 30s, 40s, and even 50s and 60s. So come join us. The link is in the description in the show notes. Just click on it and you'll find more information about this program. It's really a great way to get ready for maybe you have an event coming up or a wedding or a graduation, whatever it might be. There's nothing wrong with wanting to look better and feel better. And there's nothing wrong with wanting to lose weight and change your physique a little bit. And that's what this program is all about. We give you tools to get sustainable results. So not only do you get the weight loss in the amount of time that you're in the group, but you also get to keep the weight off, and we teach you how to keep those sustainable results for the rest of the year and for the rest of your life. So come join us. It's a fantastic group, and you're going to lose 10 pounds in 10 weeks. So she shows a tweet here. It says, rates of postpartum depression are so high, largely because of our individualistic society. Women of the past had villages, tribes, and nearby family members to help them raise children. Mothers weren't isolated and pushed out of society. It was never meant to be done alone. I love this. I talk about this very often on my show and I tweet about it a lot. I mean, if you have followed my show before, hopefully you do. If you don't subscribe to my channel, please subscribe now. Share the channel with someone who you think would enjoy it. I say this a lot as well, that the hyper individualism of American Western society can be a huge negative for mothers and for families and children. And I think it strongly contributes to why so many moms struggle with motherhood, particularly in the early years and particularly with postpartum. And Melanie explains this beautifully. Women of the past had villages, tribes, and nearby family members. The family unit was never really about mom, dad, and kids, and that's it. The conservatives' obsession with the nuclear family is actually a very modern model of family. It's actually for a long time, it was unheard of for mother and father and children to be separated, especially very far away from family, like extended family, even hired help and apprentices and a village. It was unheard of for a mother, father, and children to be totally separated. So now it's accepted as the norm. And it has actually resulted in so many women struggling with those, especially early months and early years of motherhood, because it takes so much out of you, and we don't have the support that our ancestors did. And so I shared a video on my Instagram stories the other day, and I'm not going to play it, unfortunately, because I'm going to get the copyright strike. It's got the music on it. But it was a woman who was in tears, and she talked about how moms were never meant to do motherhood alone, and how it's so hard, how mothers feel like they're like shunned from society, and they feel like they just are totally left behind. And she was clearly emotional about the fact that it's been hard for her, I'm assuming, as a mom. And I shared that video on my Instagram stories, and I got one response. The overwhelming amount of responses I got were people who were agreeing with me. And I heard from a lot of moms who have been struggling with their own journey of motherhood because their families live far away. They don't have a sense of community in their local area where they feel like they have support and even friends who can come help them out. And there was one woman who responded and said something along the lines of, yeah, it was hard when I was a young mom too. These women need to just toughen it up. Toughen up. I clicked on her profile and she's obviously a boomer. And so I just kind of responded tongue in cheek. I was like, that's a very typical boomer response, because it is. And I only hear that kind of response from boomers. I don't know why boomers wouldn't want to make life easier and better for their kids and their grandkids. A lot of boomers are like, well, it was hard for me, so it's got to be hard for you too. Shut up and just take it. That's how it's going to be. Because if I suffered, you have to suffer too. I don't know why you would want to pass that energy down to your kids and grandkids, the next generations. I want things to be better for my daughter. I would not want my daughter to go through the same struggles or make the same mistakes that I made in my life. Of course, she's going to go through her own struggles. But if there's anything that I can help her prepare for, or even help her prevent, of course I want to do that for her. So I don't get this energy from boomers where they say, I suffered, so you have to suffer too. We're not supposed to go through motherhood this way. For the millionth time, I've talked about this so often. If you think about the way that our ancestors raised children and the way that our ancestors approached family, the high trust village was the center of everything. It was unheard of for a mother to go through pregnancy, birth, postpartum, and raising children completely alone. Of course, they're not meant to do it alone. Even when a woman would get pregnant and give birth, she had help with food. She had help with taking care of her other children so that she could rest and connect with the baby. And even my mom's from Korea, and she always says it was always strange to her when she got here and she saw that a lot of these young moms were just kind of left to fend for themselves. Because she remembered when she was a child, if there was one mother in the local area who just had a baby, the other moms would get together and like have a meeting and decide how they could help, who was going to bring food, who's going to take care of the other kids. And especially if one of the moms was sick and had young children, the other moms would like get together and decide who's going to bring food, who's going to help with taking care of the other kids. And if, for example, if a mom was struggling to breastfeed, because back then everyone breastfed. That's the only option to feed the kids. But of course, sometimes there are going to be moms out there who struggle to breastfeed for whatever reasons. Maybe they have some sort of health issue. The moms would get together and decide, hey, anybody here breastfeeding, they can help nurse the child so they don't miss out on nutrients. There was just a lot of built-in support that women don't experience today. And I really, it rubs me the wrong way when I see a lot of people, and some of them on the right, they think it's some sort of conservative flex, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, and this is the way it's supposed to be. You have to just suck it up and it's going to be hard. Nobody should help you. I don't like that attitude. I think that we should approach family and community in a collective sense. We are supposed to help each other. If we want stronger families, if we want more women having children, then we should find ways to support one another. I am not talking about the government giving handouts. That's not what The Village is. So when I shared this video on my Instagram stories, I also wrote a couple of things in the next slide about how I really believe that a high trust village is lost in today's individualized society. And of course, that has to do with industrialization and modernization and just the rapid change that our society has experienced over the last 100 years. Less than 100 years ago, 3/4 of elderly people lived with their family, their younger family. Family lived together. And I know it's not ideal for all families to live under the same roof intergenerationally. I know that there can be a lot of conflict. It's not easy. I'm not talking about everyone having to live under the same roof. Just the idea that families were together 100 years ago, lived on the same land, lived very close to one another. We don't have that today. And when I wrote about that on my page, I said that women would suffer less in motherhood if they had the support of a village. And then one person said something along the lines of, no, they shouldn't, because that's when the government steps in and the government is going to come in and try to give handouts and control you. And I'm like, I responded and I said, this is a quintessential misunderstanding of what the village is. The government is not your village. When we say a high trust village, we're not talking about a socialist economy. We're not talking about socialist policies where you get money or, quote, free healthcare, even though there's no such thing as free healthcare, from the government. High trust villages of the past were built on everyone in the community sharing these deep values. They shared values, they shared religious values, they shared ethnicity and cultural expression. They had these things that deeply bonded them on a level that you will never be bonded with the government, on a level that would never bond you with a local daycare worker. And that's what these high trust villages are. And unfortunately, in today's modern society, America's, we're such a melting pot, which people claim diversity is our strength. Diversity is not inherently a strength. There are more negatives to our society that we're so incredibly diverse. And one of those negatives is that a lot of communities have been shattered. They're not tight-knit communities anymore. There are a lot fewer villages. And so I explained to this woman in my DMs, I said, when we're talking about villages, high trust communities, we're not talking about the government. They're not your village. They're not your people. They're the government. So I think a lot of people on the right have a misunderstanding of what we're talking about when we even speak of communities. It has nothing to do with the government. In fact, your high trust village is your first line of defense to protect you from a tyrannical government, because you have strong values instilled in you from your parents and from your village, from your family, extended family, friends, because you have protection from multiple people who have your best interest in mind and who want to make sure you're not being exploited by others, including and especially the government. And I actually believe that it's the breakdown of the extended family that was one of the first reasons why divorce became so popular. That's one of the reasons why divorce rates started to increase exponentially, because when you have a strong system, strong families, extended family included, and a strong high trust village, the people around you, they want to see marriages thrive. They will do everything to help young married couples if they go through some kind of crisis or if they are struggling with their marriage. They don't want to see these couples divorce. And a lot of times the extended family will help mend the marriage, will give good advice to make sure that the couple works it out. And when you don't have that support, then it's going to be much easier for you to go and just get a divorce. And we don't talk about that. Whenever I talk about a high trust village, people, they blame it on feminism. They're like, oh, it's because of the feminists. It happened way before the feminists. Feminism took over our culture partly because we lost a sense of high trust villages, because we lost a sense of leadership that came with these high trust communities. And then that's how the sexual revolution even came into fruition, because all of these families were broken down. The culture was already starting to break apart. And so that's how we were introduced to these radical ideas of sexual revolution and feminism. And then they just took over our culture. So that tweet from Melanie, I think, is really important, because I do believe that when we talk about postpartum depression, it's real. It's real. People ask me, do you think it's real? In a sense, like, yeah, of course I think it's real. I also think that it's not, I think a lot of women will overplay it for points or whatever it is that they, I don't know. I don't want to be mean, but it is real in many cases. And in a lot of cases, postpartum depression happens because these women feel very isolated. And when you're incredibly hormonal and you're experiencing these really intense changes in your life, motherhood completely just turns everything upside down. And when you don't have the proper support of family and friends, that can make you spiral even deeper into a form of anxiety or depression. I reference the study all the time. I mean, not that you need a study to even prove this, but the longest running study conducted by Harvard has been going for like 90 years now. The number one indicator of health and longevity didn't have to do with nutrition or workouts. It had to do with warm relationships. And the hypothesis is that when you have strong relationships and a strong community in your life, it significantly reduces stress, which reduces inflammation, and it keeps you healthy. And so you apply that concept to a postpartum mother. Of course, she's going to be struggling if she does not have a support system. Physically, physiologically, biologically, hormonally, she's going to have a really hard time in ways that are different from women who feel super supported. In my postpartum phases, I did not experience postpartum depression or anxiety at all. I mean, yeah, sure, a little anxiety because, just like the stress of this new life that you're suddenly in charge of. But I did not experience postpartum depression or anything like it. And that's not because I did anything special or there's something special about me. It's because I had great support. I had a lot of support from friends and family. And because, of course, there are the elements of taking care of yourself and making sure you're eating well and physically making sure that you are healthy. That, of course, contributes greatly to your mental health. But I've never experienced that. So I don't know what it feels like, but I do know that having a support system makes a really, really big difference. Even something as small as having someone to hold your baby for an hour so that you can take a shower and do the dishes, or whatever else you feel like you need to do. For me, it was just taking a shower and putting on a little makeup and doing my hair, because that felt like such a big production. Those of you out there who are moms, that feels like a huge accomplishment when you have a newborn. It's like, oh my gosh, I actually get to shower and wash my hair. This is such a big deal. And my heart goes out to a lot of the moms who don't have the support. I've been getting so many messages lately because I talk about these issues on my Instagram page. I get a lot of messages from women who express disappointment and sadness and loneliness about the fact that they live far away from family. That's the nature of our modern society, is that when people become adults and they go to school or they get a job, they move away from their family. That's just the way of Americans. And there's good and bad about that. I'm not saying that everyone should stay under their parents' roof and live in their hometown forever. There is a lot of good, of course, to being adventurous and wanting to chase accomplishments and success. Of course, you want to build something lasting for your own family and for your own legacy. But I hear from a lot of women who are just really struggling because they don't have anybody nearby. And it's okay to talk about that. Like I've said before, I think the right is often so bad at allowing women to talk about the struggles in motherhood. They're like, oh, motherhood's a blessing, just enjoy it. Of course, motherhood's a blessing, but two things can be true at once. You can enjoy motherhood and recognize the deep value and reward and fulfillment that comes with it. And at the same time, you can also acknowledge that there are some isolating parts of motherhood. And there's a lot of motherhood that is such a struggle that you need support with. I don't know why people on the right like to give that weird flex where they're like, there's no compassion for these women. Like, suck it up. Men got to suck it up when they do their own stuff. Women got to suck it up too. Why are we trying to find value in doing things totally on your own? We need each other. And the hyper individualism of America, and that often shows up mostly on the right, is not very helpful. Of course, there's good about individualism, but when we go too far in the extreme, there is some bad in that. And I think that is what shows up in a lot of marriages and a lot of families, especially mothers with young children. So let's find ways to support one another. All the time, you hear me, if you've ever listened to any of my episodes, I talk a lot about our Orthodox Christian parish. It's just got this sort of built-in support system. And the young families and the young moms that I have gotten close with over the last just a year and a half have been some of the most important people in my life, especially during difficult times. Like 2023 for my family and for me was probably the worst year of my life. I mean, we've had some rough years. 2021 was a really hard year too. 2023 was really, really hard, but we were very, very supported. And I wouldn't want anyone to go through these intense struggles in life without having a support system. There is no virtue in doing it all alone. And there is no virtue in telling other people they have to do it alone, including moms. So if you're a mom out there, I really hope that you can find support because you deserve it. Every mom deserves the support. And you know what? For those of us who want healthy families, more children being born, you should want moms to be supported because in a way, I understand why young women who are single, they look at the landscape right now. They look at what the other moms are like and they think to themselves, I don't want to be a mom. That looks horrible. It looks miserable. It looks lonely. I kind of don't blame them. We're not setting the best example. So let's set a better example and let's show younger women how wonderful motherhood can be and how much support we can give to moms and to each other. So that's all I got for today. I'm starting to do a bit of a longer episode length. I'm trying to get to an hour. So if there are any other topics you guys want me to talk about, leave it in the comment section. Please like the video, subscribe to my channel, support my channel by supporting any of the sponsors. We've got some amazing products on here. So go to the show notes, click any of the links in the description, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye.